We should absolutely not fear death. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to die, right? I do everything. So I'm committed to a healthy life and to be able to be healthy as long as you can. And yet, nothing's going to stave off death. Spiritual practices are focused on getting to know that which transcends death. And otherwise, why would it matter? Why should I have what we call Atma Darshan? Going alone makes it even more terrifying. But if you're going with someone you know and you love and you trust, so that in that last breath, in that last moment, you are essentially grabbing the hands of the one you know. Should we fear death? I just lost my dad and I'm so afraid. We should absolutely not fear death. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to die, right? I mean, all of the rest of what we fear, the worst case scenario is then I die. So if it's death, there is no other worst case scenario. You're dying. There's no, this could go wrong and then I might die situation. You're already dying. So there's no reason to fear death, especially because death is the only inevitable. So even if it sounds scary, it's something we have to overcome. Otherwise, we actually die while we're living. That fear of death keeps us from living. We spend our lives trying to somehow stave off the inevitable. And while I, on a very personal level, am very committed to a healthy lifestyle, I eat really well, I exercise, I try to get enough sleep at night, I, do whatever I can to take care of myself, take my vitamins. I do everything. So I'm committed to a healthy life and to be able to be healthy as long as you can. And yet, nothing's going to stave off death. Whether you believe that it is predestined based on karma, or whether you believe that it's just a matter of how healthy the body is. Either way, at some point, whether it's at 30 or whether it's at 110, we're all going to die. And interestingly, the fear of death tends not to be a fear only of early death. Most of us, when we fear death in general. It never feels like it's the right time. But it's the inevitable. And that fear of the inevitable keeps us essentially trying to keep life at an arm's distance. Because we are holding off life in this aim to hold off death. We're not living. Because our minds are so constantly afraid of death. And so this is why so many of the masters and teachers of all of the world's religions have always emphasized to really come to terms with death. It's going to happen. It's where a lot of spiritual practices are focused on getting to know that which transcends death. Otherwise, why would it matter? Why should I have what we call Atma Darshan, which is darshan of, vision of, awareness of my own soul? Why would it matter otherwise? Who would care? I mean, if my soul dies with my body, if all I am is this package and it's going to die, why bother? Self-realization, God-realization, who would care? It matters for one very, very critical reason. Because when I drop this body, the one going with me is soul. And if you've got to take a long journey, and especially if it's a journey where you have no idea where you're going, and if it's a journey that you're really kind of nervous about going on, you want to make sure you're going with someone you know really well and you trust a lot. So all of our meditative practices to meet the soul, understand the soul, access the soul, experience the soul, it benefits us in life because it gets us out of the stuckness and the drama of thinking that we're just the body and the story and the bank account. But it does something else that's even more powerful, which is it allows us to essentially become best friends with the only one who's always going to be with me. When you don't know where you're going and you're scared to go there, going alone makes it even more terrifying. But if you're going with someone you know and you love and you trust, so that in that last breath, in that last moment, you are essentially grabbing the hands of the one you know, it makes it a lot less scary. Because then it's, yes, and off we go. But you already know that being. And of course that being is you, that being's not separate from you. So fear of death is normal and natural. It's not even really a matter of should we or should we not. We all do. But we've all got to work through it. And the best way of working through it is to really get to know that which doesn't die. Soul, spirit, consciousness, we were talking last night. God, divinity. Again, it doesn't matter what word you use. But that which does not die. And in terms of Meg's aspect of being so afraid that she's lost her father, well, that's a slightly different situation. That's not just fear of death, that's fear of loss of someone's I'm attached to. And again, it's normal, it's natural, no one wants to lose a loved one. But just as we know that death is inevitable for ourselves, so is it inevitable for everyone in our lives. Every relationship you have, you will lose it. And so, Meg, your family here in Rishikesh hugs you, loves you, supports you, sends you prayers and love and hugs from Ganga. And so, Meg, at this point, reach out to your other family and friends, but also reach out to the divine in whatever way you connect. Because that connection is there to hold you and to support you through this time and through every time.